Welcome back to my channel, everyone. Checking out my new haircut. It is a nasty day out here for filming. That should show you my dedication to this channel and putting out content for you guys. It's like this weird fog mist type thing. I don't know what's going on out here, but we're gonna shoot this video anyways. The purpose of this video is to help anyone out here on YouTube or anywhere you find this video, helping you buy a kayak for fishing or what to think about, maybe some tips. When I was getting into kayak fishing, I didn't have a clue about kayaks. I didn't have anyone really to help me, guide me, kind of show me the way. I kind of did all my own research. I did all my own looking into different things. I'm a pretty impatient kind of guy, and I like to go out there and just go 100% no matter if it's right or wrong kind of thing. This is kind of my personality. My wife kind of hates that. She's kind of the opposite kind of person that I am. She's real organized, and I'm real chaotic and just kind of go for broke kind of guy. I think it's just very important just to find something to get you out there fishing, get you out there on the water. If you're kind of sick of fishing on the bank, or you think some type of boat or kayak or canoe is something that can help you get out on the water, find more spots to fish, to find more fish to catch, then I'm telling you, a kayak is my favorite way to fish. You feel like you're really close to the water. You feel like you can get back into creeks and channels and coves and small bodies of water, shallow bodies of water, way easier than a boat would. Really didn't like my camera angle. Also, I thought it'd be more comfortable to sit in my seat. All right, I think I'm good. I just think it's just a really easy way to get out in the water. It's a cheaper way to get out in the water. Of course, there's options out there that are going to be expensive. They're going to be something that you're going to have to invest in a little bit. When I first started out kayak fishing, I have been fishing for a number of years. I've been fishing since I was a kid, but I thought it was time for me to get out on the water. I like to fish alone a lot of times. It's hard to get people to go with you. So I started looking out. I'm gonna get me a kayak. I don't know what kind of kayak I need. I don't know what's out there, and I didn't have a lot of money at the time to invest in a kayak, a nice kayak. I went to a local sporting goods store, found one on sale. I got 25% off. It was originally $150. It was already on sale for another 20% off. So I ended up getting it for a little over $100. And it pretty much is just a piece of plastic with a paddle. And what I did is I went out to a creek. At the time, I didn't know any type of safety precautions I needed. I did not have my life jacket. I didn't have any type of way to call home or anything like that. And I've learned a lot since that trip. But the kayak I had was like 6 foot long, and it literally spun in the water the entire length of my kayak trip on this little small creek behind my house. I had the best time of my life at the time. I was catching fish. I probably caught 20 fish that day. Largemouth, spot, smallmouth, catfish, bluegill, red ear. I caught everything on that trip, and it hooked me on kayak fishing. I had a great time. The kayak I had was really light, so I could get out of the water. I could throw it over log jams and take it across sandbars. It was just an easy way for me to enjoy the time on the water, and it wasn't that expensive. I've come a long way since that kayak. I now fish off of a fill-free lure, 11.5. It's almost 12 feet long, 36 inches wide. It's a fishing kayak that I would say is a good entry-level kayak. That's not a knock to the fill-free brand. That's just, I think they're, in my opinion, a little bit better quality kayaks out there now. But at the time, I felt like I was getting one of the top of the line kayaks, and I still believe that this brand of kayak, this kayak that I have is one of the best kayaks you can fish off of for bass fishing, for catfishing. You see people using this on the rivers for fishing for stripers. Any type of fish, this kayak can get you there. I've seen people fish on the ocean with this thing. Would I do that? I don't trust my abilities on the ocean, but this kayak could handle offshore adventures. The great thing about kayak fishing is you can modify the heck out of it any way you want. I don't even hardly paddle this thing anymore. I added a trolling motor to mine. A lot of people think that's cheating in the kayak world. For me, I can cover so much more water with my trolling motor attached to this thing. The trolling motor took me a lot of work. I did not know what I was doing. I didn't know how much work it was going to take to figure out how to wire up DC currents and stuff like that. For me, my brain just doesn't work that way. But if you study hard enough, you research hard enough, you will find a way to make it happen. I built my own control box. This is the second one I've built, and I am not an engineer by any means. I just will not be told no, you cannot do it. I learned how to do it, and I have a kill switch on it. I can charge my cell phone on it, any type of camera device I'm going to use in the future. I have all my speed controls at my fingertips, and it powers a trolling motor I have attached to the back, a 40-pound thrust Minn Kota that's been cut down. I just want to kind of reel it back in and kind of get back to the basics again. Before I show my kayak off in a full walk around, that's not what this video is about. I'm going to be doing a full walk around later on, but I just want to encourage people out there that if you think you need a lot of money to have a boat, if you think you need a lot of money to get out there and fish, you don't. You need to just start somewhere. Go get something that you can afford. Go get something that's going to be safe enough for you to be out there on. There's lots of kayaks you can find on Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace that are used, and I wish I did my research a little bit better and probably bought something used. There's a lot of boats that people buy spur of the moment, kind of like me, and they use it one or two times and then they sell it for half the price. And there's been a bunch of boats that I've seen sell for half the price that I paid for mine. This is an expensive kayak. A lot of people think it's ridiculous to pay this type of money. For me, and how much I love fishing on the water, and I wanted something that can get me places and just be a little bit more sturdy on choppier water. It was worth the cost for me. I ended up paying like $1,200 for this after some discounts I was able to get, and it's definitely not a cheap way to fish. You can definitely start spending a lot of money when you want to start getting into the higher quality kayaks. And I just want to say that I don't think it's 100% necessary to spend this type of money. At the time, I didn't know any better. I thought this is the way you have to buy kayaks, and I spent the money. Since then, I found there's deals online and on these Facebook group pages that sell things, Facebook, Marketplace, Craigslist, places like that. You can find these kayaks for half the cost. Another point to bring up is if you go ahead and jump right in and buy something nice, $1,200, $2,000, $3,000, and you buy the most expensive kayak out there, and you've never been on a kayak before, you're going to be learning a lot of things right off the bat that might frustrate you with a big kayak, and I don't think you're going to appreciate what you have until you've kind of paid your dues a little bit early on. And I definitely went through some struggles with my kayaking. I think I learned a lot of lessons that I now am thankful for having a nice kayak when I had my cheaper kayak. There are things that a lower end kayak, it won't have the same upgrades or amenities that you might find in something a little bit higher priced. When you start getting into the higher priced kayaks, there's things on those that are luxuries, I would say, to the kayaking industry. And not knowing what you need, if you don't go through a lower end kayak, you might not even know what the options are for, or you might not even understand how to use these options. So don't be afraid of going a little less expensive or cheaper. Um, I don't like to say cheaper because a lot of these lower end kayaks are built out of the same materials. I'll just get into a couple points here that I would say that maybe here's what to look for when you're buying a kayak or you're looking to spend money on kayak. Maybe you're ready to buy something a little bit nicer. I would say that you need to, number one, be safe. You need to make sure you have all the necessary items to keep yourself safe on the water. Safety is paramount when it comes to being on the water, especially being alone. And sometimes you have to drive a distance to find good bodies of water, something that's worth catching fish on. And you're gonna be away from family members. You might have no cell phone service. You might not have a game plan. So it's important to have maps, physical maps of where you're going. I think it's important to always have a backup map in case your cell phone fails or your batteries die on your GPS. And you need to find your way out. You need to know where you're going. You need to let your family members know where you're going. Always, always, always have a good PFD. I love my PFD. It's a personal flotation device made by NRS Chinook. This thing has already saved probably my life. And I don't say that figuratively, I say that literally. A couple seasons ago, I was on the river fishing. Really, the first or second time I've ever taken this out on a creek. The creek was slightly high. The water was moving just a little too fast for us to really be catching fish. We caught a few fish that day, but it was kind of moving us along. And I was definitely an unexperienced kayak fisherman at that time. And I remember seeing some rapids up ahead in the water, and I'm thinking, no big deal. We already been through several rapids. I was not really worried about the rapids at all. So I was trying to focus on this key area off to the side that had almost like a little like still water that was catching. That's where a lot of fish kind of stack up in that, those still waters, those eddies. And I was trying to fish that, and before I knew it, my boat was already pushed into the rapids that were coming up ahead, and I was all turned sideways. I didn't have my paddle ready. I think my paddle actually fell out of my boat. The kayak got pushed up against a tree, and I had my poles sky high on the rod mounts that are on my kayak, like straight up in the air instead of laying down horizontally. My poles were all tangled up in the tree, and I was working on getting my poles out of the tree when I leaned too far to one side, and the water just caught the edge of my boat, took the boat from underneath me, threw it down the river. It just gone. I lost 3 or 4 poles. It snapped several of my rods. I lost almost all of my tackle that I had. The only thing that I was able to save in my tackle were my crankbaits because they were floating in the water in the box. I fell out of my kayak when it got taken out from underneath me. I never remember hitting bottom. The water was moving so quick, I couldn't even swim. It was just throwing me around. My life jacket kept me up out of the mess that's on the bottom of those rivers, and I believe 100% that my life jacket saved my life that day. So that's my first point, is be safe. Before you go out in the water, go with someone who knows what they're doing. Learn how to fish on a kayak. If you want to go out there, make sure you have your life jacket always on you. A lot of people think it's dorky or it's uncomfortable. That's why I think it's important to get a good life jacket, and I'm going to do a review of my NRS Chinook. I think it's by far the most comfortable life jacket I've ever worn. I wear it 100% of the time on the water. I put it on before I enter the water, and I take it off when I leave the water, when I'm out of the water. And I'm just a big proponent of safety. The next thing I want to talk about is being comfortable on the water. You need a kayak or a seat that is going to allow you to be out there as long as you want to be on, or as long as you can. This seat right here on the Feel Free lure is called the gravity seat, It can raise and it can lower down in 10 different positions, and it has been awesome. It has been an awesome chair for me to fish off of. The first kayak, it pretty much didn't have a seat at all, and my back would be killing after about an hour, hour and a half. I was done because I couldn't even stand the awkward position it was putting my back in. If you're a person like me who has a little bit of back pain, and you need something that's going to help you to be able to sit out there in the water this long, the gravity seat on the feel-free lure actually helps keep your legs almost like in a seated chair position, or you can lower it all the way down. You can stretch your legs. The good thing about this kayak is you can stand up on this kayak and stretch your legs that way. It makes a world of difference to being able to stand up on a kayak. Couldn't do that on my first kayak. It's not necessary, but it's nice to have that option. Thought I heard a noise. I'm trying to watch my kids during nap time while I film. One thing, it's not a huge deal, but I would look for something that has lots of grab handles. When you're fishing in these weird parts of these creeks and you're trying to get around some low parts of the water, you're trying to portage around objects in the water, you might not know where you're going to need to grab the kayak. If you only have like one or two grab handles, it makes the kayak very awkward. It doesn't matter how big the kayak is, they're kind of awkward sometimes. So good grab handles, like the Feel Free Lure has 4 grab handles, one in the front, one in the back, and 2 on the sides. You never know where you're going to need to grab, and it's a minor thing, but it's something that I've come across where I've needed to use almost every side of this kayak to get it out of some places I was in. I would look for something on your kayak, if you're searching, something that has good dry storage. And I say dry storage loosely a little bit, because when you're on the water, things are going to get wet, things are going to leak, things that might say they're 100% waterproof, their water is going to get in. But to have something that's supposedly dry, a dry hatch, is very nice to have. It's good to have extra clothes in there if you're fishing in cold climates and you need to change clothes. If you fall in, you need to be prepared. You're going to get cold, you're going to need some clothes. If a rainstorm that you didn't know was coming by, I have a set of Frog Togs rain suit in my kayak when I fish. First aid kit in my dry hatch. Stuff like that, just stuff that you might not think about. Extra line, zip ties. I've used so many zip ties for different things, holding things up, maybe like a bolt breaks, or especially since I added my trolling motor, things just kind of wear and tear eventually, and I need to get back to my vehicle. A zip tie has held those parts on for long enough for me to get back. You need zip ties for an anchor system. They're just nice to have. One thing that gets overlooked all the time is a cup holder. Something to hold some water or whatever you like to drink when you're fishing. A good cup holder makes a big difference. It gets aggravating having a water bottle roll around your kayak, get in your way. And there's not many kayaks out there that have good cup holders, but there's options out there if you have a rail system. If you have a good rail system, you can add anything you want. Rod holders, pole storage, paddle holders, cameras. An important item is your paddle. You need to make sure you buy the right size paddle. I'm not going to be able to tell you the exact paddle you need. I remember looking it up when I ordered my kayak to make sure I had the right size paddle. You can look, but there is information online about what size paddle you need. I'm just saying it's important to have something that fits you. If a lot of these lower end kayaks that you might be buying to get started on have these little small dinky little paddles, and you're going to be very aggravated trying to paddle with something small. I would say instead of going cheap on a paddle, maybe spend the money outright up front getting something nice. There are some good brands of paddles out there that if you look, you can get some good deals on. Now that I want to upgrade my paddle, I have to go invest into a new paddle, and I've already spent money on my Feel Free paddle. So just keep that in mind. When you buy something you know you're going to need, it might be worth the money just to go ahead and buy something you know you're going to use in the future, instead of buying something cheap, it's not working, or it breaks, then reinvesting the money into something else. Now you're spending way more than you would have if you just paid for a nice paddle. Keep in mind, the weight of your kayak is going to make a huge difference when you start adding your modifications and your gear to it. What says it's 100 pounds stock is not anywhere near that weight. When you start loading it down with stuff in your dry hatch, adding trolling motors to it, adding batteries for the trolling motor, if it takes on water, all your tackle, your rods, it starts to get heavy, and you might be in a situation where there's no way you can get yourself out of a situation with all the gear on your kayak. You're gonna have to unload your kayak to get it out of certain positions. Just keep it in mind. If your kayak says it's something heavy, mine I think weighed around 95 pounds stock, so mine's pushing every bit of, I would say, close to 200 pounds, 180 pounds with all my gear on it. One more tip and I'll let you go. One thing I've learned in kayak fishing is that everything falls off your boat. If it's not tethered down, tied down, screwed down, bolted down, put in some type of system that keeps it from falling out, you're gonna lose it. Like I did on my river trip, I lost half my gear. I have now since upgraded all my tackle storage to floating boxes with the seal on them that keeps air trapped in them. They're supposed to be able to float. I haven't fell in since then. Hopefully I never do. Hopefully I don't do another one of those trips again. Pliers, knives, rods. I've lost rods, pliers, and knives like it's going out of style. I've since have a new system now where I've made inexpensive DIY rod leashes that I've used that I've made from weed eater string. I might, if you guys want to know how to do that, I'll show you. There's a lot of stuff out there. I'll show you how I did them. It's very inexpensive. I made a lot of leashes with those weed eater line, and it's been great. I haven't lost a rod since I made them. If you want to keep it on your boat, have it tied down. Well, hope some of these points were helpful to you in some way. I wish I knew some of these things when I was getting into kayak fishing, and there's definitely a lot to know, and this video was not meant to cover everything there is. There's all kinds of things you need to learn with what Chad Hoover always says in kayak fishing, time on the water. And I'm a big proponent of time on the water. If you can get out there and just learn, then a lot of these things I'm talking about will come to you over time. But it's always good to seek out some type of information, to learn more about the sport that you love to do, the hobby that you love to do, getting outside and enjoying nature and the wonderful creation that we have. And it's just awesome being outside and fishing on the water. And what better way to get out on the water than a fishing kayak, just experiencing life outdoors. There's nothing better than getting up early in the morning, getting out on the water before the sunrise, as sunrise is peeking over the treetops or the mountains or wherever you live in this world, and that sun rays hit that water. That water is perfectly calm, and you are out there throwing a topwater frog catching largemouth bass. There is nothing that beats that for me. And you might not be into bass fishing, or whatever type of fish you love fishing for, this is a great way of getting out there and just enjoying what you like to do the most. I just want to say, be safe on the water, always wear your PFDs, learn that knowledge yourself with time on the water. If you have any questions about kayak fishing, my kayak, I'm going to do a better walk around this kayak later. And I just want to encourage people just to get out there and just do it. I'm going to stop the video right here because my feet are freezing and my hands are really cold. It is not a good day to be outside filming, but I did it for you, the viewers, and if it helped anybody out there, then it was worth it. Take care, be safe. I'll see you on the next video. And in the fishing community, tight lines. Perfect timing. The kids are waking up.